Welcome to Future Signals 2026. Now, did we write the future, or did we create the Future Signals 2026 simply to have more research out there? Of course not. There's really one core reason why we developed the Future Signals. It's similar to 2025, but even more so in 2026, and it's to make sure that we're able to give real confidence to executives in their hands. So 2025, you would be hard-pressed to meet someone that wasn't enthusiastic around AI, but equally, those same people ended up being quite exhausted. So they went from enthusiasm to exhaustion by the end of 2026 because there was just simply so much noise. So what we wanted to do is take all of that noise and give it some kind of meaning so that people can make some really good decisions.
Yeah, the report serves a couple of purposes. One of them is to provide a navigation point, a playbook that is equally equipped with evidence, with actions. This information that is being gathered in the report serves that. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, I've read this. This is what might come in the next year. So serves as your preparation playbook for this year.
Right. I really like that, particularly if you think about what the structure looks like. So it's at the end of each chapter, it'll say, for example, this is how we know the signal is calibrating, so recalibrating as in like it's not right at all. And this is how we know if the signal is accelerating. The thing that I also really like is if we think about AI and the maturity map of AI, people are really in very different positions. There are people that are honestly in 2026 just beginning their AI journey. There are certainly companies out there that are quite a lot on in their way when it comes to maturity and they're in their building phase. And then there are certainly companies that are leading and scaling and that AI is a simultaneous infrastructure throughout their entire organization.
What can we learn from them?
Right? Exactly. And so in the report, there's those 3 steps. So no matter where you are, there's something to learn, right? But the thing that I think I like most about this report is that it's not us taking a guess and saying, this is our best guess, believe us. If anything, it's us taking deep research from trends that are already happening out there and then giving meaning to it to people. So it's not, hey, believe us, we're fortune tellers. We're taking data that already exists out there, but we've been able to identify what's the common thread between them.
So all of this has to do with the way we created the report. The 2025 Future Signals report, last year's report, was created deliberately by the Designing in Japan team and openly, saying that it was created with the assisted. I will try again. And that has to do a lot with the way the Future Signals report is created. Starting from 2025, in that year, the Designing in Japan team created the report and openly saying that it was in collaboration with AI. So it was not just a bunch of analysts, a bunch of people or experts, SMEs, trying to figure out or to predict what's coming up. But how do we use the AI to accelerate it? And for the first time, that architecture was open. So it's available on the Designing in Japan GitHub for people to have a look. And of course, when that report was created, we put it to the test. At the end of the year, we launched 13 independent sources to analyze and to test how many of the predictions that were there back then became true. And we were very happy to observe that 85% of those predictions are becoming a reality, which means that the richness of the information is a solid source of information, right?
2025, like all things, human-centered design is at the core of everything that we do, and iteration is obviously key. And in 2025, we learned that it might be helpful, valuable to add another layer of research. So we had our context layer, which is what's going on right now. So we pulled everything from filed patents to voices to VC reports to financial analysis, kind of what's going on right now, so the context layer. And then we moved to also the signal layer, which is where are things going? And so we were able to then triangulate, right? So between what's happening, but also where are things going?
So what about it, right? So what?
Yeah, who cares?
So what? The so what is that these 2 signals, which is kind of one of the early stages, means that we're observing the current state of activities, industrial and societal activities. However, the second signal tells you where things are cooking. Like things are getting ready. Like for example, there are the robotic, let's say, revolution that we're observing right now. All of those products were starting to get prepared 5 years ago. 5 years ago, they were researched, and this year they launched altogether. So the analogy and the importance of this new architecture is that it starts with the human intention, and then we launch these signal researches from 2 different angles. Then at each step, there's a human validating the outcome. And when we have these signals, we clean them. They got clean. But not only that, they got challenged. How do we know if they're just a phase? How do we know if this doesn't become true? And through the data gathering, the data analysis, the data challenging, the diverse sources that challenge each other, and the combination of thousands of bits and bytes of information, we came up with something, the Scientific Japan research team came up with something very interesting. Very interesting, and we believe also fun to read.
Right. So we went from 4 signals to 5 signals this year. And the 5 signals, we're going to go through maybe the obvious read and then kind of go a little bit deeper. So
we'll share each one of them just a little bit.
Exactly, just a little bit. So first things first, we began with the agent that just handles it. So when people think agents, I've heard time and time again people say something like, should my next hire be a VA or an AI? Which is fundamentally the wrong question to ask, because you are thinking that AI is in fact an employee when we found out that's not really true at all. In fact, it has a total another materialization, being that it is not an employee, it is very much infrastructure. You do not hire an AI any more than you hire electricity. You obviously pay for electricity, you hire electricity for your team to use, but it's not necessarily on your org chart, right? So dive more into with that initial read of, oh my gosh, it's agents. Agents are just going to like essentially replace all of the people, into rethinking the inversion of the AI.
We have seen, how long do you want to go into each article? I thought it was just snippets.
Yeah. Like just a couple minutes, like each one.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay. 3, 2, 1. The inversion, the obvious path is that AIs are here and we will start firing people and get wins from that potential savings. However, what we're observing is that most productive companies are taking the human, equipping with these tools, and multiplying their output. What it means that they will have a aggressive, hyper-aggressive production, right? We're leaving behind the competitors, but also providing faster value or bigger value at lower cost to the clients, which of course is a great advantage. However, observing is as infrastructure is critical, because you can, if you're in construction, you can break down a house with a hammer, or you could get one of these, Caterpillar machines and drill holes and move faster. But the machine needs intention, needs direction, needs a point of view, needs decision, right? And needs someone to wield it. It's an amazing sword. And today, seeing how this infrastructure connects, right, has to be aligned with the purpose of the company, with the goal of the company, with the values. And of course, combining all that aspects is what makes it a good infrastructure.
Right. So moving AI not being an employee, but rather infrastructure. And then if we think about signal 2, which is the idea of our fragmented world. So interestingly, I went to university during the age of globalization. The world is flat. You can have breakfast in Berlin, dinner in New York. That was very much the mode of the time. But we've seen very much in 2026 just how the universe always swings back and forth between when one thing is true, very soon the actual opposite becomes true. So if we think about the fragmented world, the idea that you have regulatory frameworks, for example, but actually that's not really what we're talking about, that just each country has their own regulations, and that sometimes one market might be more expensive than the other. It's actually deeper than that, right?
Yeah, the obvious, as we call it, the obvious read is like we're having regulations and more restrictions. The non-obvious read is that these these new restrictions creates opportunity.
Yes.
Because the opportunity goes to those companies that get prepared, that get ready to jump. What happens when I'm developing in some infrastructure, let's say with some country preferences, and then I move abroad because my company wants to be or is international, and I cannot operate with the same infrastructure? How do I anticipate this to become this seamless transition? How do I become transparent in those movements? How do I allocate resources, not in the old way, which was let's choose one vendor, one provider, and this is good for all, like one fits all. But how do I equip myself in an agile way, in a very flexible way, to anticipate changes, not only changes on regulations, but changes on preferences, what people might like, what the technology might bring. How do I make my own operation non-restricted but adaptive?
So Signal 2, we had enough data to show us obviously that it is going to be true. This is why we listed it as a signal. But we didn't expect for it to be proven this quickly, right? So this is
a couple of weeks
March,
ago.
Yeah, March 2026 today. But we saw even late February that there was a clear mandate from the U.S. government that, hey, we're no longer going to be using Anthropic. There was a call or a suggestion to no longer use Anthropic technologies, and then this was really like a switch overnight, right? And this is.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges. What happens because most companies are building on multiple stacks of technologies, and I even heard some let's say more novice voices that says, yeah, but we have our own software developer teams, so we're okay because we develop our own technologies. But those technologies are built on top of something else in the terms of software, IDEs, licenses, APIs, infrastructure, chipset, electricity. Yeah. We go to the electron level. So knowing that some of these pieces depend on each other and how do you become flexible creates reality. And what happened with Anthropic being flagged as the supply chain risk, what happened with the government, and right now, of course, they're in this debate, creates a clear evidence of the importance of this signal.
Right, and that the signal, obviously we meant as a geographical level being, so for example, we have like the US mandate to things, or for example, German or Japan, whatever. But we even saw that this is not just like a foreign adversary thing. This can even happen within a nation state itself. So super interesting stuff.
This can be a single episode.
Yeah, that's going to be another episode in of itself. So Signal 3 being about biology, I think the obvious thing that people kind of go to is that AI can make drug research faster. So if you equip a scientist, so if we talk about the idea of an AI scientist, the idea that you'll have a scientist being using AI really well, but there's actually an inversion to that, right? That it's not a scientist using AI, rather something quite different.
Yeah, when you start, most companies uses R&D directly or indirectly, regardless of the industry that you are, right? But when you think about the obvious path, which is how do I use my research and development team to find something, right, versus how do I use first principle and redesign from bottom up, from the material level, the things that I'm going to need, changes fundamentally. And I'm going to probably hint into the next signal. We're going from assisted activities, from borders, right? We're going to biology, which is understanding the chemistry, but also going to the physics. So when AI is understanding the physics, it's also understanding what can I do to manipulate the chemistry to make better outcomes. So programmable biology is not only at the chemistry level, it's at the infrastructure level. How do I create the elements that I need to operate in better ways?
Right, so this is obviously if we think about like an industrial application, so this is everything from if any person that uses living or organic materials, right? So it's whether you're in agriculture or whether you're in manufacturing, if you can go back down to the physics first principles layer and say, how can we fundamentally do this differently or more effectively? I mean, it's an interesting question, which, as you said, suggests to then Signal 4 being that AI takes on a physical context. So I think the most obvious kind of thing that comes to mind is, oh, well, everyone's going to have a robot, or
jumping in the signal number 4.
Right, which right, and so jumping into signal number 4, the idea of that AI is beyond the screen. AI has a physical context, which means that we've gone from AI as infrastructure, AI having borders, AI being chemistry, and then the fourth signal, AI being physics, understanding that AI not only is, well, if you take a step back, I guess one of the more simple or the most obvious read is that robots can do more physical tasks. Robots get better at doing things. But if you think about it, AI, unlike, for example, if you think about traditional software or the internet, can live beyond your phone or your actual screen, your computer screen, TV screen, whatever. It can be in so many different things, really anything. It's developing an actual physical language in order to live and interact with the world, right? So it's not just we've got smarter robots, it's actually AI understanding and being able to navigate our physical world.
Yeah, the understanding is passing from the paper to the physical things, and not only having a robot that manipulates things, but could be an assistant, could be your LLM when you're having a conversation. The advice, the back and forward that you get, it's accurately because understand the physics of the world. That you're wearing this kind of shoes and the floor is kind of wet, right? They take that to motorsports, to manufacturing, take that to healthcare, to any industry. How these physical constraints and the physical combination of all those elements have effect on the desired outcome. Having that is the vocabulary that we will start sharing with them, because they start getting this understanding of the world and goes to the first signal, right? Things that we're starting to prepare become a reality.
Right, exactly.
And that cycle repeats.
And usually when we get to about signal 4, this is when people kind of like put their pens down and say, do I give up? I'm a human. Does that mean that I think that I'm completely irrelevant? And interestingly, even though our first 4 signals highlight the maturity of AI as a technology, our 5th signal, if anything, is really the connective tissue, which is the idea of a human premium. So this means that it's not the fact that AI can do more and then human contribution becomes less, and then, you know what, you should just turn around, go home, everybody have, universal basic income, and everyone go home. That's actually not what we're saying. We're actually saying something quite different here.
Yeah, when you can build anything, what would you like to build, right? And as we mentioned, if we connect the 4 signals, it's about having a AI that can augment, multiplies you. You have things that can be programmed to the atomic level. You have physical robots or physical elements that can be added into that equation, right? You have different frontiers that could allow you to manipulate and to operate with different contexts. Means like the first intuition is, as you mentioned, I give up. But that also means that knowing what to build, having the right person to direct will change things. You probably won't have 5 operators, but you will have one person directing a small team or a big teams of called the robots, physical robots or digital robots, taking action, taking activity. That's what makes the differentiator. Imagine this analogy, and we share this in other episodes. If all of us ask our favorite Claude, Gemini, Perplexity, whatever, we said, give me 10 good ideas to make for a party. Yeah. All of us will have 10 good ideas. Yep. But because it's a probabilistic model, all of us will have mostly the same ideas. So how do we differentiate at industrial level when we receive the same? Right. That's where guidance. The human comes from.
It's our guidance.
That's the human intention.
Right. Now, when people talk about that, when we say, where's the opportunity, right? Where is actually the opportunity? I think this is when we had our 88.6 percentage come in. So 88% being that 88% of companies are simply taking existing workflows and then accelerating them with AI, right? Which isn't wrong. However, it's limited, exactly. So but if you look at the 6% that are going deeper and they're actually fundamentally redesigning the idea of their workflow. So not just how have we done it and then how do we make it faster. They're thinking, how might we completely do it differently? So at 88.6, when we're looking at where is the opportunity, I think the opportunity is not just in making your traditional workflows faster. I think the real opportunity is redesigning through human intent your future workflow. One of my favorite questions that we often ask is, well, when everyone has access to the same technology, who are you going to be? What do you want people to say about you? How do you want your customers to feel? These are all the kinds of conversations that, ironically, I think are the most important in the age of AI.
I was having some conversation out there, and some of them were like, okay, I need to do AI. Tell me what do you want to do? Oh, well, I have this thing, and I did AI this year. So just the exercise of reimagining what was my let's say my reflection with them. But what do you need to do the same? Because if we add the AI, we could just create this engine that replaces all the 7 steps. You just need one. Like, what do you need to manufacture? Imagine if it is manufacturing for pieces for an engine. What do you need to manufacture all of this if you can, let's say, redesign and create just one, reduce it to simple things? And I think that's the human ingenuity,
Right.
the human intention.
Yeah. This is also very much also courage as well. This is where, for example, leadership is most effective, impactful maybe, when you actually take courageous decisions, when you have a compelling vision for the future. Because if you're just talking about AI in your organization as, hey, it can help you write faster emails or more polite emails, or it can check some documents for you, people go, oh, that sounds okay. But until you fundamentally rethink, how might this reimagine not only how we work, but who we are? I mean, I think that's where people start really leaning into the idea of our fifth signal being the human premium. So
combining with the fact that you can visualize things faster than ever.
Right.
The cost to see things tangible has reduced. So you don't have to wait 6 months, 4 months, 1 year to see a prototype. If you're in BC, you're not waiting. You should not be waiting months to see a prototype from the teams, right, that are pitching to you. If you have an idea, the courage becomes, let's say, easier to keep. It becomes easier to keep the momentum because the risk is reduced by the accelerated execution, right? You can contain it, analyze it, validate it, prove it, and move forward.
Right.
The risk of what are you going to lose is less. Is what if we're right?
Right. And I think this is the exact moment to circle back and think about your own personal context. So, of course, when we think about these are the 5 signals, there's a lot going on. But the number one thing that we always say in human-centered AI is, what's your problem? What are you trying to do? What's your context? So when you're reading the report, really reflect on which signal is applying most to me, and then also think about, even in terms of the maturity, where are you? Are you starting? Are you building? Are you scaling? And I think having these, having the report being able to triangulate your position through what's the signal, where am I at on my maturity, and also if the signal is even recalibrating or even accelerating. So being able to identify where you are and what's really relevant to you, I find personally really helpful. And it really just begins with that very simple step of, what's my problem? Because you may look at the signals and think, oh my gosh, how does the physical context apply to me? But there's some really great examples and some really great case studies. So my number one recommendation to people is to reflect not on just the signals just as a whole, but think about your business. Where are you going? Where do you want to go? Who do you want to be? So
maybe it's a good opportunity also to remind the viewers that there's resources. One resource is the Future Signals report, and every signal points to the same direction. When execution becomes abundant, intent becomes scarce. Other resources, of course, can be found in the Design Thinking Japan website, like AI custom development, could be accelerated, but also the academy to have bigger conversations about this.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe you should say that, or me.
No, I mean, you said it already, so it's fine. Yeah, so I think
you said it better. I think you could say it.
Hang on a second. Right, which is also, let me just take a minute to remind everybody that we always say at DTJ that AI is a marathon. It feels like a sprint, but it is most definitely not a sprint. It is most certainly a marathon.
George Hoots had a good point.
What did he say?
George Hoots. Actually, you mentioned it. That he was saying there's a lot of messages out there, like these influencers. I was building with 400.
So I was reading. So it was George Hoots' LinkedIn, which I thought was interesting that he has a LinkedIn and it wasn't on Twitter or it wasn't on his GitHub or something like a little bit more hacker.
He loves going to LinkedIn and
so,
burn things.
Yeah, so I was looking at one of his living posts, and one of them said, "I'm so sick of waking up in the morning and somebody saying, I had my 37 agents work overnight, and now I'm doing whatever, 10 million monthly recurring revenue or something like that." And he said,
And what were you doing?
and the point was, he
I
said,
know he said, and what were you
yeah,
doing?
and what were
Sleeping.
you doing? Like, yeah.
Having breakfast.
Exactly. And then what were you guys doing while my, 37 agents were making me these millions of dollars? You were just having your breakfast like a pleb. And I laughed because I thought that's very much kind of what it feels like, that you have this absolute disconnect between some people that are kind of making more noise around AI.
They're actually doing.
And,
They're
and,
not
and
doing
exactly. And then his point was, you people are going to get found out.
The people that is saying, I am doing all this with 400 agents. Maybe you don't need 400. You just need a few ones well equipped. Remember, this is the era when you have startups that were built with 5 people. The
Right.
$1 billion company, the one-person $1 billion company. It's not about having 300 agents. It's having the right amount of technology, agentic, biology, robotic, in terms of, let me try again. It's about having the right amount of
Technology.
it's having the right amount of resources and technology, agentic, biological, like in terms of frontiers, in terms of let me try again. Physical, let me try again.
Go in order. You have to go frontier,
Yeah.
chemical, physical.
Yeah, well, it's not about having like this vast amount of tools. It's having them in the right moment, in terms of agentic, in terms of the frontiers, in terms of the biology, in terms of the robotics, in terms of the
physical
people,
context, not just robotics.
the physical context, and in terms of the people who's wielding it. What are the right amount and the good intent that you're going to do? That means that you have an unstoppable force. Not only 400 agents to the one, I don't know, just to be an influencer on LinkedIn or on Twitter.
Yes, exactly. And so I think this is another moment. If this is something that resonates with you, this kind of conversation around AI, stay with us. Of course, we have our human-centered AI series, which is always free. If you're in Tokyo, drop by, come and visit us. We also have our academy, which is both remote and online now, where we developed an executive level fluency in people. And I think this is really interesting because we have lots of people that are sitting on budgets, on resources, and they're thinking, I really want to make a good decision. I want to make a good decision. Where do I invest? How do I invest?
I don't like you say sitting on budgets. Feel like a very like you want to to remove the budget from them. Like, yes, but that's a consequence.
So we have. And so, for example, with our academy, it's really focused on executive fluency, which I really like because it's not fake fluency, it's actual technical fluency. You will be able to then identify what does an AI stack look like. It's not just kind of fake fluency, like it's actual real fluency, which I think is really cool.
It's a strategic, it's a strategic fluency for decision making.
Exactly. Knowing what to build, right? That's what it's all about. And then, of course, you can call us anytime that you need any also software builds or any AI application builds as well. So, with that, this was our 2026 signals. We are very proud of this work. I think it is, for me,
A nice fact, during this week, there's been the amount of downloads. I have already passed the downloads that we had
from last year.
Full last year.
Yeah, exactly. Which is really exciting. So definitely go over and check it out. And the thing that I like really a lot is how many people jump to the methodology that they're like, I want to check out your GitHub. I didn't think that would be like as interesting to people, but there are plenty of people that are like start from the GitHub and they're like, give me the technical architecture first, which I think is also cool. I mean, but there's either way. So no. We are here. Anytime that you are looking for a more signal than noise, come to us. This is where you're going to find it. And we will see you in our next episode.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.